Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of 2026 on Talking Sports with UWL Thomas. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season and is off to a great start to the new year 2026. On today's show, I am delighted to be joined once again by sports talk radio show host, and more importantly, good friend of the program, and that is none other than David Shepard. Shep, Happy New Year. How was your holiday season since we last talked? And hope things are going well, my friend.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate you having me. Things are good on my end. Obviously a very different 2026 so far for me. Very much miss the network, miss the fans, miss the friends of the show, the listeners. So it's been, always going to be honest when I get asked questions and on camera or off. It's different.
Mm.
It's definitely been different, but I appreciate you asking, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes, my pleasure. So, as Shep alluded to, it's been about a week since he officially left Infinity Sports Network. And in Infinity Sports Network, folks that do not know or are not aware, um, it has officially shut down. Westwood One Sports has taken over. We won't really get into too much of that because that's another topic for another day. But I did want to take a moment with the audience to kind of go down memory lane and revisit some of the wonderful memories and the fun times that Shep had hosting the Good Shepherd for the past 5 years again on the network, Shep. So my first question for you, Shep, and I honestly um, have not heard this at all either, but can you take us back to 2020, if my math serves me right? The year, obviously, of COVID, or some say the year that shall not be named. But can you take us back to that first day when the higher ups gave you that chance to host your first radio show all on your own? And we're like, go and do that. Go and be you, go and be who you want to be, I guess, on this network or whatever iteration, you know, you want to put in there. But can you take us back to that first day hosting on your show? What was in your mind going in? Um, Kind of what nerves were there, I guess, as well? And yeah, just kind of take us back to day one for you hosting.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely nerve-wracking for sure. You are broadcasting to an entire country, because of technology and the app that we had at the time. And it was essentially an international show. And a lot of people in Canada are listening. We had a lot of affiliates in Canada. So, it was definitely nerve-wracking, but I was ready. I had paid a lot of dues. I had been around enough talk shows, I'd been around enough hosts, and I knew that the passion would come out, the knowledge would come out, the entertainment value would come out. All three of those I was gonna put on full display. I wasn't gonna have any regrets about the show. I wasn't going to, do anything that I would look back on and question. I was going to give it my all, and that's what we have to do in whatever we do, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be related to sports talk radio, but as a parent, as a friend, as anything you do, give it your all because you don't want to look back and have regrets. And it doesn't mean you can't circle back and rectify mistakes because you can do that too. But I was ready. I was ready. I had been with the company for almost 8 years at that point, and I was just salivating and starving to get my opportunity. And when I did, I never looked back.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's great advice to everybody too. Like in whatever position that you're given, always give 110% because, obviously David Shepard here, you started at the bottom. Like you started kind of like as a board operator, as a producer.
Tape op. Yeah, tape op, which is even below a board op. Yeah.
Right. And you believe served as an intern on Damon Amendola show, who now works at Sirius XM now, of
Right. I was
course.
never, so I was never an intern. I was in, because by that point I was in my mid 20s.
Okay.
But I was an intern all the way back to my Sirius XM days with Scott Farrell,
Okay.
in 2010.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so I've been at the very bottom of this industry, and the internship changed everything for me because that
Hmm.
was my entry point, to the industry.
Hmm.
And if I don't have that, I don't have an in anywhere.
Hmm.
So that meant the world to me to be able to do that.
Yeah, and again, it speaks of the hard work, determination, and Shep has said it many. You've said it many times when I've had you on. This is our third time, my third time having you on, but you've said like some iteration of never take no for an answer, right? And you never did, right? But you worked your way up. You got your own radio show. So my next question for you, Shep, I want to kind of talk, speaking of, about producers. I think have worked with so many producers. You worked with uh, so many producers, and honestly, still will, I think, moving forward in the future. But the relationship I feel that you had with your producers, um, I would say exactly mirrored the same relationship that you had with the community, with the Infinity Sports Network family. You know, there'd be just about every show you would start off by asking, like, say, Chris, KP, Chris Persanian, how are you today? Like the generosity, the care, the compassion that you had towards your producers, somebody that you may work that somebody that you have worked with, some of them only for a couple times, somebody like KP who you worked with multiple times over those 5 years. Can you just kind of explain where where you got that that idea of forming those bonds, and how, better yet, in this industry, forming bonds with people like producers, with people in that same line of realm, impacted how the show not only started, like you mentioned, but continued to grow and grow and continue to grow through those 5 years on the network.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. It's important that when you do a show, it's not a solo act. You know, no one just wants to hear from one person for 4 hours or 5 hours, however long the show was. So I had an obligation to make sure that the other voice on the show was being heard and was offering their perspective and oftentimes a different perspective. And I wanted them to feel like it was never the David Shepard show. It was never just the Good Shepherd. It was our show. My name is on it, but there needs to be shared ownership in the product that we're putting out there. And I find that when I'm able to lean on somebody else and get their opinion and their input, it adds a lot of value to the show because it's a perspective that I didn't have. And why would I want to silence that? You know, just because somebody is and oftentimes younger than I am and oftentimes more inexperienced doesn't mean they don't have something to offer. Doesn't mean they don't have value in what their opinions are and their perspectives. And they could be or may not be as polished. They may be just as polished, sometimes more polished, but I've never understood shows that just put out one individual and it's that same person talking. It's why I am very heavy on calls because callers share that same ownership in a show. They have an opinion, input, perspectives that I don't have. And I'm doing the audience as a whole a disservice if I'm not tapping into as many different opinions and thoughts as I can.
Mhm.
My job is not to talk for 4 hours. My job is to create a show where multiple voices are being heard and being broadcasted.
Mhm.
If I'm not doing that, then again, you're listening to one person the entire time. That's boring.
Exactly. Exactly. And, you know, to echo off your point, you were able to make those connections, not only with the callers, but obviously with the producers too. You found their strong points. Like with Chris Persanian, he was big in the NBA. Like I'm watching back your show from December 31st, I believe, when KP was on, and you dedicated like almost an entire segment just to talking NBA with you and
Yeah,
KB, back and forth, that dialogue. It was beautiful, I must say, too. So well done on that. And
thank you.
again, whatever producer it was, you were able to find their strong suit or their sport that they were most passionate about and be able to bounce again that back and forth, that dialogue so well. So I commend you on that. So my next question for you, Shep, take your time answering this question too. But when you look back, obviously over these 5 years, in any industry whatsoever, and in any career, we all experience failure, right? We all experience the lowest of lows, obviously, and the highest of highs. But looking back, how do you believe failure in your industry and on your show kind of molded you into becoming a better person overall? Not just in the sports sphere, but just
Yeah.
in overall life too. And with that, like, do you just want to talk maybe about one of the most challenging experiences that you had hosting your show? Um, and maybe
Well,
like
yeah.
what you took away from it, kind of. So that's a
Well,
multi-part question. So yeah, take your time.
look, full disclosure. I don't know how many people will catch wind of this, but I'll be totally transparent with you.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't get along with everyone at the Infinity Sports Network. It doesn't mean that I didn't have respect for everyone, but I had a lot of good teammates. I had a lot of good teammates, but not all of them were great. And there were some hosts, um, that, would use their shows to, and I'm not talking out of turn. This is public knowledge because they did it on their shows, that they would, publicly shame me and go after me and use their platform to try to hurt my career. And I haven't done anything to these individuals, whether it was they saw me as a threat to their show with the numbers that I was putting out for what I was doing on my show. I don't know. I don't think they're particularly bad guys,
Hmm.
but I do know that there were a couple of hosts that did not want to see me succeed.
Hmm.
Um, and that's common, by the way, in not just sports talk radio, but business. You're gonna run into people within your organization, and there's not everyone's gonna take to you. Not everyone's gonna like your style. Not everyone is gonna treat you the way that you believe that you should be treated and the way that you treat others. Um, and those people, dealing with that is something that I had to really learn how to do and navigate. And that was tough
Hmm.
because I couldn't do it on my show, talk about them because they were higher, quote unquote, on the pecking order.
Hmm.
So I had a lot of great teammates at the Infinity Sports Network. Um, but I also had a couple of people that did not want to see me succeed.
Hmm.
And having to navigate that was a challenge. And again, doesn't mean they're bad guys, but for whatever reason, they did not want to see me do well.
Hmm.
So you learn how to not take it personally. You learn how to keep moving forward, and you learn how to use that as fuel to be better in your craft and not want to kind of get in the sewer with them.
Hmm. Well thought out answer. And I think, yeah, I resonate with that a lot too, because just looking overall at where I am at personally, even like in school, as like a
Yeah,
college students too. Like there are people um, who just do not necessarily resonate with the person I am. And
sure.
that's going to be the same when I go to a career as well, too. You echoed that absolutely perfectly. You're going to have people who you just do not blend with, who you just do
Yeah.
not form that connection with. But the
Right.
most important thing is how do you look beyond that? How do you move past that and continue to prove people wrong? How can you continue to elevate your game, so to speak, metaphorically,
Yeah.
while still having those haters there too, right? So it's quite a contrast that you deal with in whatever career industry. This is for the entire audience as well that you go into. You're going to deal with that. Shep was so spot on with that too. So keep that in mind, everybody, that you're going to deal with those naysayers, the people that are like, there's no way like that you're going to become a national sports talk radio show host or fill in the blank. So how do you respond to that? And how are you able to take that constructive, that negative criticism and feedback and be able to use that as fuel for fire to continue to elevate you in whatever space you are in. So on a more lighter side, Shep, I kind of want to end with this question, while waxing poetic, so to speak, on some of the memories from your show on the Good Shepherd, and that is talking about maybe one of the funniest moments that you had on the show, and as well as kind of talking about a favorite memory or moment over the 5 years that sticks out. So I know I'm really turning the gears on you there for
Oh, so
5 years, but
so
however you want to answer it.
it's one of those things that like I'm not gonna call out the individual, but
Oh, yeah.
we had a producer who I have a lot of respect for, great guy, and he said he was really sad that a very famous um a very famous musical artist passed away. And I kind of coaxed that out of him. I go, who are you talking about? And he goes, Lauryn Hill. And I go, Lauryn Hill didn't die? What are you talking about? And he goes, oh, my bad. And so he was never able to live this down. So whenever we would talk about someone, we would always say, hey, don't prematurely kill this person out too. So that's something that definitely stood out. Beck, I always told producers, whenever Beck from Florida calls, which is not his real name, by the way, but whenever Beck
Yes.
from Florida calls, don't put anything. You're just wasting your time. He's gonna talk more about what he's not gonna talk about than what he's actually gonna get to.
Yes.
And when when he does start talking about that particular topic, it's never gonna be what he's actually calling about. So just so you know. Um,
Oh, yes.
there were great calls, when Glenn would just call to disagree, and he always disagreed, and he always did it respectfully. From Glenn from Niagara Falls,
Mhm.
or Mr. Positive from Michigan.
I,
It became a running joke. It was like, "Shit, baby, I gotta tell you." Tell
yes.
me about the
Yes.
breezy. And I gotta tell you, Shep, the kindest, most genuine guy in talk radio. And last but not least, everybody, go for your dreams.
All
And
right.
it was, and I will tell you, he is who he is on the air. That's who he is. It's not an act. He really believes in positivity
Mhm.
to the utmost degree. So, but it was always funny because people wouldn't know what to make of Greg if they didn't really listen to the show and they're hearing this for the first time. And I would get feedback on Twitter like, "Is this a bit?" No, we didn't have any bits. Everything was organic.
Yes.
Beck wasn't a prop. He wasn't a plant. He was a genuinely interested friend of the show, fan of the show, listener of the show, caller of the show. And so those are funny moments that I can think of. When when someone would call up and they weren't there, and I would pretend to be in a conversation with them for 2 minutes, and I'm doing it for the first time with a new producer, and they have no idea what's going on. They think that they've lost their mind or I've lost my mind, and I look at their reaction. Um, it was, I really am gonna miss, it's we've had a lot of conversations, just myself with people last couple of weeks about where we are in talk radio and the direction we're going in.
Mhm.
And Thomas, it's why I want to encourage you as a youngin, as someone up and coming, to continue what you're doing in this space and to have genuine, organic dialogue and conversation
Hmm.
because it's an
Yes.
art that's not only missing, or I should say, decreasing in this particular space, in this talk radio slash podcasting industry, but in society in general. This is not a shot at anybody, but I don't like the direction overall that I see sports talk radio going in.
Hmm.
That's not what I would want to listen to.
Hmm.
I don't want to listen to prop bets. I don't want to listen to instant cash.
Hmm.
I understand it's a society in which it's all about the instant gratification and the stimuli that's right in front of you. And there are teams and organizations with 18, 19, 20-year-old student athletes, and they're all betting on their phones. And I understand that. But that shouldn't replace talk radio because there's still a huge desire for that brand, for that product. And it's why people like yourself continue to push out what you're doing
Thank
because
you.
it's so imperative.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, Shep. Yeah. That is something that I'm looking to do like every single day to just be the best version of myself that I can every single day. Whether it's on the campus of the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse, whether it's in my hometown of La Crosse, Wisconsin here, when out and about, but just be a good representation of myself and
Yes.
set those good examples. Be a mentor, be a good example. So um, we're gonna switch away a little bit um, from a walk through memory lane of the Good Shepherd on Infinity Sports Network and do what this show is all about, and that is talk sports and dissect some of the biggest sports news and headlines. So obviously, the biggest talk of the town that came out last night is the Baltimore Ravens firing longtime head coach of theirs, John Harbaugh, after the tumultuous, I guess you could say, season they had. You obviously saw Lamar Jackson just not looking like his usual self. Derrick Henry at some points during the season showing his age as well. Zay Flowers didn't really hear his name a whole lot, especially during the back half of the season as well too. So, Shep, just it's been 24 hours now, so just now that you've had time to process and think about it, your initial reaction to the Baltimore Ravens and this new direction that they're heading.
Well, I don't love it. I think John Harbaugh was made to be the fall guy, and he shouldn't have been. Um, Tyler Loop makes a 44-yard field goal. We're not having this conversation.
Hmm.
It's a field goal that I think most kickers could make in their sleep. We're not having this conversation. The Ravens are AFC North champions and they're the 3 seed in the NFL, or excuse me, the 4 seed. Um, so I don't love it. I think, look, what was happening with Baltimore wasn't working, right? They were getting to a plateau that they couldn't quite break through. And it seemed to be that they would beat themselves, whether it was Mark Andrews, whether it was Lamar Jackson, whether it was a defensive gaffe, whatever the case may be, that they had success, but they just couldn't break through in the Lamar Jackson era. But I don't think the change and the overhaul is at head coach. He's been there and won a Super Bowl. Lamar hasn't. I'm not saying Lamar is a scapegoat either here. I thought he played brilliant, brilliant in that game versus Pittsburgh. I don't love it, but if you're going to make this move, and this is the key to any move like this, when you're getting rid of an all-time great coach, and that's what he is. He's a Hall of Fame caliber coach. You better get the replacement right.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, considering all the talent that the Ravens have, like I am seriously looking for the Ravens to find that coach that can mesh well with an elite quarterback in Lamar Jackson, a
Yeah.
dynamite powerhouse running back in Derrick Henry, and a wide array of receivers as well at Lamar's
Yes.
disposal, like Zay Flowers, for example, too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go in the coaching carousel. I mean, lots of good
Sure.
options available, but only time will tell
Is
what
there is there
happens.
is there a coach out there that is top 20 all time in wins, that's won a Super Bowl, that's been to 3 different AFC title games? Is there anybody that you can think of that would be available on the open market?
Yes.
I'm obviously referring to John Harbaugh here.
Right, right.
All right.
Exactly. Yes.
But you know,
Uh,
it's funny because,
Good.
you know, this is a really good hiring cycle in terms of teams because you not only have John Harbaugh out there, but you got Kevin Stefanski.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, two coaches that have had immense success as head coaches. So this is a really good hiring cycle. I think Pete Carroll, unfortunately, is done, obviously, with him being dismissed by the Raiders. The coordinators, you keep hearing, Clint Kubiak, Brian Flores is another name to keep in mind. It's going to be, there's going to be some teams that are going to get better
Mm-hmm.
because of coaches that just got fired.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly I feel it's almost like how it works in the NFL a lot, especially nowadays too. Like coaches, come and join, these, you know, good teams like the Ravens and whatever, and then they elevate. You know, as you mentioned, Kevin Stefanski. I mean, just look at what he's done, and better yet, if you look at oh gosh, like the Carolina Panthers. Speaking of the NFL bracket too. I mean, just look at where they were last year and look where
Yeah.
they are now with their head coach. So it very much
Well,
could happen.
they also have the Falcons. Dave Canales has done wonders for them, but they also have the Falcons to thank too. I thought that, I think if you lose your last game and you finish 8-9, you shouldn't be a division winner.
Mhm.
But that's just me.
Exactly. All right. One final theme that I want to ask you, Shep, is obviously about the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Quarterfinal, not quarterfinals, excuse me. Pardon me there. The semifinal games, I should say, start tomorrow. So we got some big games on the slate. We have the final four teams: Oregon, Indiana, Ole Miss, and Miami.
Yeah.
Or you may scratch your head a little bit that seeing Ole Miss because we we literally just talked about it in the last time I had you on about Lane Kiffin leaving and now bringing in the new coach. So
Thomas, I would love, sorry to cut you off. I would love to see Ole Miss win this. That it would be the ultimate, ultimate boost that college football needs to get back on track. And college
hmm,
sports in general for that matter. Because it's only going to get worse and it's a crap show.
hmm,
And I'll be respectful and not use the other four-letter word.
yes, yes. But really quickly here with the time we have left, Shep, what do you believe are going to be the two teams that are going to be playing in about 10 days from now in the college football 2025 national championship? Who you got between Oregon and Indiana in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and who you got between Ole Miss and Miami in the Verbal Fiesta Bowl? And again, for folks, January 8th, that is the Verbal Fiesta Bowl between Ole Miss and
Yeah.
Miami, and then on the 9th, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Oregon, Indiana. Really quickly here.
So I got the Hoosiers because they look unbeatable right now. And then I have Ole Miss. I just think that they have the ultimate rallying cry, in their head coach spurning them and, tossing them aside like they're trash, even
Mhm.
though they had the most successful season in program history. So those are the two teams I have facing off in the national championship.
And then, like you mentioned, you believe Ole Miss is going to win it all.
No, I don't think they're going to win it all. I would like
Okay.
them to. I think it's Indiana's to lose. I mean,
hmm
you saw what Indiana was able to do, against Bama.
hmm
That was impressive, man. That's as impressive as a quarterfinal win as you will ever see. Now, granted, there's only been two quarterfinals ever in college football playoff history, but nonetheless, what Kurt Cignetti's been able to do, he's the talk of college football right now, as he should be.
hmm
What he's been able to do in just 2 years at Indiana, and the guy wins wherever he goes, not
Amen.
just Indiana, but obviously with James Madison. This guy, man, he's the real deal. And there's something to be said about overlooking people. This guy didn't get a head coaching opportunity for nearly 30 years, and look what he's been able to do in his career.
100%. So, well, with that, Shep, I think I want to say thank you again for coming on the show. I look forward to hearing your interview later today on that sports podcast, and look forward to catching you up again, maybe around spring break, kind of towards the later springtime, talking college basketball and everything. So, ladies and gentlemen, David Shepard, thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate you having me, man. Always a pleasure.